Oh, terrible shot. Alright, T-67 on the hill. Don't have shots. Don't have an outline. But not much to shoot here. Yeah, I'm looking at that T-67. I'm wondering, can I loop a shell maybe? I still don't have an outline. No outline. Oh, and he's disappeared. But we'll go for one anyway. Yeah, yeah. Looping shells over obstacles. You gotta love it. Hi folks, and welcome to the Ace Tanker for the Strv M40L, although technically, depending on what modules put onto it, this is a mix of two tanks. This is the Strv M40L and the Strv M40K. Again, depending on what actual, well, it comes down to the engine. Depending on what engine, if you're using the top engine, it's a Strv M40K, and if you're not using the top engine, it's a Strv M40L. So it's a kind of a mix of two Strv M40s in here, but once again, it's a Strv M40, which is basically a modified L60. And once again, we'll start with the history because once upon a time, at the beginning of Sweden's tank building project, they basically weren't planning to build tanks themselves. Sweden had actually gone and they bought the LK2 from Germany, and they went to Czechoslovakia and they ordered 80 LH, or what was it, TNHs, which is basically the Czechoslovakian export version of the LTVZ-38. So the LTVZ-38 was the tank that Sweden wanted. They ordered 80 of them from Czechoslovakia. However, Ireland, in the meantime, came in and said, oh, by the way, we like your designs. Would you mind building us L60s? So the first two L60s that were built for Ireland, and really, if Ireland hadn't ordered those tanks, the L60 might never have been built. So Landsberg built the L60 for Ireland and then continued building them and started supplying the Swedish Army. However, the Swedish Army were still on hold. They still were waiting for their LTVZ-38s from Czechoslovakia. However, the outbreak of World War II meant that Germany invaded Czechoslovakia, or they annexed Czechoslovakia, depending on your version of history. They cancelled the order to Sweden, and they basically took the tanks that were being built for Sweden and they integrated them into their own armor. So basically Sweden were suddenly left without heavier tanks because the LTVZ-38 had 30 millimeters of armor, which the Czechoslovakians or which the Swedish wanted, and the L60 only had 15 millimeters of armor at best. So they basically went back to Landsberg. Sweden went back to Landsberg and they said, listen, we want a more heavily armoured tank. Can you build one? Now, Landsberg, again, still new to the tank building industry. They said, well, we're still getting used to it. We're still making variations of the L60, but, okay, all right, we're going to try and make a heavier version of the L60 for you. And they came up with this, which is the Strv M40. Now, the major changes between this tank and the earlier L60s was that it had applique armor. So if we go in very, very closely here, you will be able to see basically extra armor plates that are basically bolted or welded onto the front of the tank, the sides of the tank, and basically they increase the frontal armor to about 50 millimeters all round, which is a heck of a lot better than the 15 millimeters that the L60 originally came with. But this extra armor came at a cost. The tank got heavier. So as a result, in order to support the heavier armor, the engine deck was lengthened. So they made the engine deck longer. It became a longer tank, and also the engine deck was designed so that a mortar could be fit to the engine deck, so it could actually fire mortars from the engine deck as well as having the main gun on the tank. And the lengthened engine deck was also so that they could add a bigger engine in order to support the weight of the extra armor. So yeah, there were quite a few changes. Another change was, look at this, there's a cupola. So the L60 was very innovative because it had periscopes for the crew. There were no vision slits or view slits. The crew all used periscopes periscopes, and while the periscope is still here, there's also a cupola here for the commander with vision slits, so a cupola was added. So more armor, it was bigger, it was longer, and it had a cupola, and that basically are the major differences. There were 100 of these tanks built between 1941 and 1942. However, they were under-engined, and Landsverk were having trouble mass producing them in the numbers that were needed. So they ended up moving the production of the M40 from Landsverk, its main base, to a second base called Karlstadt. So Karlstadt was K, Landsverk was L. So the first 100 that were built were the M40L, and the next 80 that were built were the M40K. And the only difference between the M40L and the M40K was where it was built, and also the fact that the K version of the tank had a better engine. So if you're using the top engine in this tank, it's actually an M40K, not an M40L. But really, that's pretty much it for the history. It was basically one of the last L60 variants to be built by Sweden during World War II, and it's still used. It was still undergunned because it still used the 37mm. I'm actually not sure what the final gun is here. It's still a 37mm, but one difference you'll notice here is the penetration is much better than the Tier 2. The alpha damage is exactly the same, however. You'll also notice that this tank comes with 85, well, I'm using 85 rounds of APCR standard ammo. So it's a Tier 3 tank with 50mm of frontal armor that has APCR as standard. The only downside is the alpha damage is a little bit low. You've still got the same alpha damage as a Tier 2. So DPM, not particularly high. The gun handling seems to be okay. And the other thing that differentiates this tank over pretty much all the other Tier 3s in the game is it comes with an absolutely amazing 15 degrees of gun depression. So 15 degrees of gun depression, another low tier tank that if the map suits it and if it can get into a hull down position, it has absolutely amazing gun depression. So it's a little bit sluggish, a little bit slow because the engine power is a little bit lacking. It is quite a heavy tank and it's quite a big tank, so the engine's a little bit underpowered, even the top engine. The armor, very good, and the DPM is a little bit lacking, but other than that, I quite liked the tank. Not enough to keep it, but anyway, we are here on Runeberg, and we are just going to advance. So I'm going to do what most medium tanks do. I'm Tier 3 in a Tier 4 game. Most of the tanks on either side are Tier 4s, so I'm not technically bottom tier because this is not a Tier 5 game, but still a lot of tough tanks on the enemy team, so very good armor. The turret armor is 40mm or 48mm from the front, including the gun mantlet. The frontal hull armor is 50mm, so you can bully lower tier tanks if you come across them. And as I say, the alpha damage and DPM are only the only real negatives for this tank. So here we go, D2. He's another Tier 3. Having trouble having to aim more carefully. You can see that the accuracy is quite good, but we're going for his commander slit, or the driver's slit on the front of the tank, bouncing a few, but you can see that the shell speed is quite good. The APCR, much faster shell speed than the standard AP, and we're just putting in shots. So the aim time is okay, the accuracy, not the best, but it's okay. Okay, no shots on the SAV, continuing to move up, so not much pressure here. Oh, there's a Tier 4, so we put one shot into the Lago, get another shot into the Lago, just poking, taking shots. I think maybe this tank is a little bit better at taking snapshots than the, as you can see there, a little bit better at taking snapshots than the Tier 2 is, but we managed to get two very sneaky snapshots into the Lago and he goes down. So T127, normally a problem for tanks, but we've got the side, and we're just pouring shots in. So the low alpha damage, oh, we don't get the final shot in before it gets into cover. The low alpha damage means we were able to put 4 shots into the T127 and still not kill him. He's still left him on 50 health, but we're just advancing. Once again, 45 kilometers an hour. Shot in the move, not good. Shot in the move, not good. Missed that one. Take him out. So, oh, I'm platooned with Tonza here. Just noticed I'm platooned with Tonza. Okay, Valentine, and we've got problems penning, so we track him. Now, I probably should be moving into cover to get a little bit safer from his gun, maybe do some side scraping, but I figure I've got a lot of health. I've gotten full health here, so looking at how many shots it's taking to kill this Valentine, I figure I can take a couple of shots from him. But we're just bouncing. We don't have the penetration to constantly go through his tracks. He puts one extra shot into me, That was one shot more than I was expecting because we were bouncing a lot of shots there, but able to take out a Valentine from the side with no problems. And there's a T-50. Nice shot in the move. And once again, low alpha damage is the big issue with this tank. So 62 health and just 2 tanks left on the enemy team. I'm trying to side scrape. I don't want to get hit, so trying to sneak one into his lower glacis here, and we only end up bouncing. So once again, we don't have the alpha damage to track enemy tanks, but Stuart moves out, dies, which means I can move out. And even though this guy's pretty much a one-hit kill, we have to take 2 shots to finish him off. So just the Panzer B2 left. Tons is up there in his gross tractor, and we're trying to accelerate up to 45 kilometers an hour. So you'll notice the lack of engine power when you're trying to go up hills, but looks like our team were able to take out the Panzer B2. And there we go. So yeah, first ace in the Stridsvagen M40L, or the Stridsvagen M40K, depending on what engine you're using in it, and it's another version of the L60. So picked up our ace, and we also picked up a Naiden's Medal, which I hadn't even realized I was doing while I was playing that game, but apparently we destroyed all the enemy light tanks in the battle, at least 3. So yeah, we took out the T-50, the T127, Valentine, D2. Okay, alright. Yeah, we must have taken them out, even though I would say that the D2, the Valentine, and the T50, technically, other than the T50, aren't really light tanks, but it doesn't matter. We didn't finish top on XP. We finished second on XP with 756. Good game from our M8A1, who was top tier in that game. Nice XP total, but 756 was enough to pick up the ace, and we did 950 damage there or thereabouts. So yeah, not a terrible tank, and first game of the day was a ×3, which is nice. Left me on a very, very nice XP total, which meant I was able to grind through the tank, sell it, and move on to the tier 4. So fired 44 and hit 37. So the accuracy of the gun when you let it aim in fully isn't too bad. The only issue, as I say, with the gun is the low alpha damage. The DPM isn't very good as a result, but everything else, the gun handling seems to be quite good. The gun depression is absolutely amazing. The maneuverability of the tank is not great, especially when you're going uphill, but you know, on city maps it's good enough. It gets you around the map. So happy with the damage. Damage 6, destroyed 4, only 39 assistance damage though, and we picked up just 8,000 credits. So yeah, not great. APCR standard ammo is nice on the tank, so I like the tank, but it's a tier 3 and I just don't see myself playing it again, and as a result I sold it and moved on to tier 4. So not a terrible tank, but and not a, to be honest, not a very interesting tank either, but it's done, it's dusted, it's sold, and we're gonna continue up the Swedish lines in the next video. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.